Okay, let's have a quick look at part 2 of the resource study, which is the issue exploration. So students investigate and analyse ethical, legal, economic and/or sustainability issues related to the solution. So it doesn't mean you need to do all of these. It means that you might pick one or more of these particular things and look at them. So you remember last year some of you would have done a thing on Instagram. So what are the ethical impacts of Instagram and what are some of the sustainability components of Instagram versus printing? Some of you looked at one or either that area or the other, or some of you looked at both. So you notice that this is presented in written or multimodal form. So once again, it's a maximum of 2,000 words. I would suggest somewhere between 1,500, 1,200 and 2,000 words. Trying to get at least 1,500 to 2,000 is going to put you up in the A band, and it doesn't take much to write that sort of thing. So an ethical issue, for example, might be something like there was a famous photograph where the reporter shifted a skull. He moved the skull to a different place in the scene and photographed it, giving it a completely different context to the viewer. So when the viewer saw that particular photograph, the message he was trying to convey matched the story that he was telling. But is that ethical to move an object and then try and sell it as this was the real scene? So that's where copyright and storytelling and what was ethical and what's not ethical all sort of began from. There's obviously the tricks that you could do in the dark room. There's lots of airbrushing to do with magazines and stuff, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. So this used to come under the folio, but it's now part of your external assessment. So it used to be only 400 words. So you can see that they're weighting this quite significantly. The importance of this is paramount for us to get right, and we'll do a series of drafts back and forward to make sure that we absolutely nail this as best as we can for marking for external marking. So it's the same thing here. So the impact statement used to be one that has to relate to your major product again. It's usually a continuation in some ways of what you've looked at, that you've been testing and analysing as part of your resource study for your materials. So investigate and analyse the impact of your product on individual, society and/or the environment. So you notice the wording's very similar. It's got external research. Okay, so it's not just this is what I think, and certainly you want to have your opinion in there and for you to create an argument of some type, but it needs to be backed up and supported by external research and accurate references that actually document that's where that came from. So Harvard referencing, in-text referencing, and bibliography. Now, we don't have to put this after the product investigation, obviously, because it's not in the folio anymore. This will be a standalone thing with your in the document with resource study. We'll talk about that more when I put all of this together to show you. But you'll notice that it's the question. So what impact does your product have on individual, society and the environment? Okay, so just creating a zine for an audience, what are the environmental impacts? So we know one that you're using paper. So do you have to source that paper from ethical resources? How can you minimize that impact on the environment? How does it benefit an individual or society? Well, obviously it helps the artist to sell their work and creates a catalogue of their work for future exhibitions and for the value of their product. And it helps society by actually showcasing the work, and they understand what the dimensions are, what materials have been used by the artist, and what the cost is for them to purchase that particular item. So what does impact? You choose the two most significant things. So is it a positive or a negative? They could both be positive. They both could have a negative or one of each. It's up to you, depending on what you choose. And you will need to discuss your choices of this with me specifically, so that each one of you has your own, and I know exactly what path you're heading down for this. So it's like a normal essay. It has an introduction, hook for the audience, reword the question, state your points. In your body, you'll discuss points in 2 separate paragraphs, obviously more because it's slightly longer. Should have the TIL structure, so topic, sentence, expand, evidence, linking sentences, all those types of things that you would normally do in English and for an essay, and a conclusion to sum up points on what impact does your product have on those things, and references is really important. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this document that I'm going to put up tonight on in the Stage 2 website with some of the other stuff. So we've already been through so resource study. This is why you're doing it. This is the investigation part. So you'll notice here, sports, compare telephoto lenses to standard lenses, field of view, aperture range. Live music, compare the use of different ISO settings. Landscape photography, compare different image quality effects that camera shake causes. I'm not going to run through them all. Portraiture I mentioned in the earlier video. So you identify 2 or more materials or components to test and state the reasons clearly why these materials or components have been selected. So that's the first part here. So you're then conducting the research, you're identifying the important assessing properties, you're outlining the testing methods, analysing the results and drawing conclusions, and that covers the first part that we talked about in the video, part 1. Issues exploration now goes back to the investigate and analyse again. But if you're doing sport, it might be the use of images of sport starts for promotional purposes. So does photographing somebody on a sports field, is it just for nothing? Or is it actually to sell that sport, to make money, or get an audience to come in, to create membership? Live music, the use of mobile phones to photograph and film concerts. Some places it's banned. Why? Is that to allow for further marketing from people who are actually there getting paid to video, or getting paid there to photograph, so then they can sell more merchandise? So what role does the mobile phone play there? Is it actually a good thing, or is it a bad thing? It depends on whose point of view that you're looking at. Landscape photography. What about sacred sites relating to indigenous cultures? For example, there's an area as you go around the base of Ayers Rock where there's clearly signs saying no photography, and they give you a list of reasons and the meaning behind why you can't photograph there. How important is that? What are the ethical impacts of that? Portraiture. Obviously, the use of Photoshop to enhance images for magazines and advertising. So is the product you're seeing, there's the burger that you see on the billboard as good as the burger that you actually get through the drive-thru? Does the model in the magazine look, and the dress look as good in the magazine as it does on the everyday person? What are the ethical issues there? Is the magazine online? Is it being printed? So you have to discuss your issues proposal with me so that we can work out what you're going to do. And I would really carefully look at this document for performance standards. So you notice that A is comprehensive and insightful analysis of the design features of products, processes, material systems, and or production techniques. Okay? So that relates to part A. Part B, purposeful research. So there has to be a reason to research it. Why are you looking at it? Critical analysis. Not, I think it's based on research and based on looking at these 2 points of view from research. Create your argument that way rather than I think this, but there's nothing to back it up. Okay, so ethical, legal, economic, or sustainability. So planning. Insightful and thorough planning, development, testing and validation, design, concepts and procedures. So once again, this is more to do with part A. Okay, so that actual, I'm testing the photographs, I'm showing you what raw file looks like, I'm showing you what a TIFF file looks like, etc. Comprehensive insight evaluation of the solution features, realization process and response to issues. So this ties into both. So that's why there needs to be some flow between the both, so they've got some flow of idea between part A and part B, and then also then will be linking into your product solution, your major product solution at the end, because you'll actually in that document reference as investigated on page blah blah in that document. So there needs to be a tie between the two. So the Brighton video will explain that a little bit more, because you'll be able to physically see how that's done looking at some student work. All right, hopefully that steers you in the right direction and get you guys started, and then we can nut it out together a bit more as we go.